This is Laisha. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. Morning.
So, I guess for me, it's a little bit different because the thing that makes me feel like I'm on top of the world is not related to sports because I'm not really good at them. Um, but I really enjoyed singing and dancing. Kind of makes sense since I'm a performing arts major. But I feel like arts have always been my passion. Anything related to art um, is my thing. Um, and like Tarek said, I feel like it's um, important to find that thing that makes you you, and that thing that makes you feel great out of all the things that you have around you. Um, and for me, it was kind of like a trial and error situation because I mainly thought that I was always gonna be interested in one thing, um, but then I lost my sight and I started focusing on other things, um, like singing and dancing, as I mentioned before. So it's just about figuring out what you like and what makes you feel great and what you know that is gonna make you look like your own person and like understand who you are as a blind young adult, as a blind teenager, or as a blind kid in general.
Thank you, Laisha. That was great. Manny, would you like to answer that question?
Sure, sure. And good morning to everybody out there and the fellow panelists. It's nice to be with you all. Yeah, one of the interesting things, I've got a few different hobbies, and I've noticed for me, it always helps when they're opposite. So I tend to love to get involved in something musical and then something where it's arts or making something with my hands, or I love goal ball, and I love travel. So some of those things tend to be opposites, and that's what I've noticed for myself. And um so for example, I love playing goal ball, but when I felt really good was when two other blind people and myself just decided to pick up and go play in a tournament down in Mexico. That was something that we thought of. Nobody had helped us with like making the arrangements or getting in touch with tournament people. It was all kind of what we decided to do. So sometimes, the hobbies that we like, it actually is just it's the growing, it's the grounds where more interesting things happen. Like, so I've always loved to rap, and when I was little, I loved to rap and I loved to perform. And it was great. It's fun when you're just doing it with your friends, or kind of making up rhymes here and there. But really, what really meant and made, let me describe it, and then I'll describe what it seems like from my perspective. When I was in high school, there was a student council. Like a annual meeting for student councils. I was a senior, and we got together at it was a party over at Old Tucson, and it's a local amusement park that's set in the West here. For those of people who don't know, in Tucson, so it's a cool place. Anyway, there was there was a DJ set up. So of course I'm like, hey, can I rap? And yeah, he gave me the mic, and I threw something down. And the first moment that you're able to say, hey, everybody, can you hear me? And having 2,000 people respond back, yes, it makes your hair stand on end. It makes the room seem like there's motion, because now suddenly you're on this roller coaster of your experience, and it feels like the room without a roof, for any of those who know that song. But it feels like these feelings go up and up and up, and And then you got them. Say ho, having people, oh, I'm like, whoa, they're responding. That made me feel and know what it's like to not only do and pursue one's passion, but then also to get us a bonus, if you will, or something that touches you in a way that kind of makes you see things differently. There's sometimes when I've received that feeling, and I swear you can almost hear electricity in the air. You can hear this low-level humming when something really exhilarating is getting ready to happen. And that I think that maybe describes that feeling when we heard just the young man was talking about going on his skateboard, and just before he goes off the edge and feeling that moment of weightlessness. It's kind of magical, and it's really cool. Sometimes it happens, when fitting in, but the fitting in sometimes happens way before that, because by the time you make it to that exhilarating moment, you have to already kind of be there. Like some of the people who my fellow panelists who described about playing sports, or Miss Laisha talking about performance, right? Those moments are once we've had a chance to build that skill and feel that fitting in part. And it's great when you find that hobby. So to recap on what you got, my panelists were saying earlier, is just that really find yourself. And it doesn't matter whether it is reading poetry or being a foodie. You know what I mean? That is somebody who enjoys different foods and enjoys tasting different, types of foods. Or if you're a musician and you like yo-yos or, computers or what have you, it is a really great thing to find those hobbies, no matter, it's what's going to mean something to you. Sorry if that was long-winded.
No, these are great answers. Thank you.
That was beautiful.
All right, so I'm going to ask one more question, again related to the film, but we can imagine. So there were two characters named Nick and Karina, and they both had to advocate. Well, Karina had to self-advocate because her mom wasn't able to help her, and Nick's mom took a lot of time off of work to advocate for him in order for them both to receive the services that they deserved in their schools. So my question for the panel is, if you can share a situation where you had to advocate for yourself or someone advocated for you in order to receive services that your peers had access to. And if you could describe what that situation was and what you had to do in order to advocate for yourself.
All right, I think I'll go for that one because that one just recently happened to me, as a matter of fact. So as Annie mentioned, I'm a digital forensics major. And so digital forensics is, for those who don't know, it's basically evaluating, analyzing, and investigating a cybercrime, right? It's taking the forensics of the computer, so analyzing the hard disk, everything about the operating system, and writing a report on it, so you can give it to the lawyers, and so that way, it's collecting evidence, right? So this field is not really ideal for someone who is blind, right? Because a lot of the times it's there's a lot of graphical stuff you need to kind of like analyze, so it's not really ideal, right? But however, this just happened to me a couple of weeks ago, and where I got an email from the program director where he was saying like, hey, by the way, I like what you're doing. I think it's awesome that for someone who is blind is doing this field. I respect it, right? He's like, but I don't know how you're gonna make it, because this is something that it's not, with all due respect, right? He was trying to be not trying like, he was trying to be respectful, and I understand that, but he was like, I don't know how you're gonna do it, and just to summarize it, And I was like, man, all right. I didn't feel bad at first because I was like, wow, okay. It's an opinion after all, right? So, so then I started getting emails from my current instructors, right? And when they were telling me, oh, I don't know how you're going to do it, whatever. So I started talking to my support group, which is my VR counselor, um, then the person in charge of my academic kind of like success, I guess you would say. And I started telling him like, hey, like this is bad. Like I don't know where to go from here because it's very discouraging when your own professors are telling you, hey, you can't do this. I don't know how you can do this, right? And I was like, man, how can I go about this? So it took me like a week. I'm not even gonna lie. It took me about a week to really think about what I wanted to do. Whether I wanted to be told, hey, you can't do this and kind of prove them wrong, or I should just switch a major to, make it more VI friendly, right? So as you guys probably already know, I chose to stay in my major because I was like, you know what? There's always gonna be challenges, no matter what. There's always going to be no matter what, as a blind or even as a visual, like even as a sighted person, there's always gonna be challenges in a field, no matter what, whether it's um, I don't know, whatever it may be, right? So for me, I kind of didn't think of it as this is an excuse. I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna do what I can, and so I worked with the DRC, which is the Disability Resource Center at the U of A. Great, by the way, they're really good, by the way. And so I started speaking to them. They're like, hey, how can we make this accessible? Like, this is something that you guys need to make this accessible, right? I didn't want to go that right. I didn't want to be like, you're entitled to help me. I didn't want to, do that. But I knew that this is something that I needed to have equal access to because all my peers, they use what's called virtualization software, which is kind of like a computer within a computer, right? For those who don't know. Um, and so everybody was connecting to a network, right? Via a virtual machine. So I was like, how can we get JAWS or NVDA? NVDA, it's like another screen reading software, into that virtual machine so I can actually access it myself, right? At first, it took the DRC like a long time. It seems like they didn't know what they were doing, and it kind of made me upset because I was falling behind. And as a matter of fact, I did fall behind. I fell behind 6 weeks, 6 weeks behind my peers, right? And now I'm struggling, I'm scrambling to catch up, right? But this is what happens. And so I was like, okay, we're here. What can we do? So it took literally a whole team of people. It was a program director and then his boss, all my instructors, the DRC, VR, FBC, because I work with FBC. It took like a whole team. It was like at least 8 people in that team. And finally we got it working, right? Finally we got it working. And but at first the DRC was like, I really think you should reconsider your option, kind of like making me not want to do this, right? Because I don't know what the reasoning was, but it almost seemed that way because they kept telling me that over and over again in emails and phone calls and Zoom meetings. Hey, you should probably consider this, reconsider this. You should do this. You should do that. It's like, no, I don't want to do what you guys want me to do. I want to do this. I'm gonna figure out this. I'm gonna figure out a way. And it took literally just going online, researching, and literally we managed to work a solution, right? Well, we took JAWS, installed it in my computer, my personal computer, my laptop, and literally installed JAWS on the virtual side of things. And literally they just remotely work together, you know? And so now I can actually say, like, it took me 6 weeks, of course. Yeah, it took me a long time, but at least I got it done, And but it was a struggle. And um I think it's always important to advocate for yourself, not even as a blind person, just in general, I think it's always because all of us are always going to struggle sometime. And it doesn't matter what field. It could be, I don't know, a nurse, it could be whatever, So So I don't know. I'm sorry this answer was really long, but and if hopefully it made sense, but but yeah, that's literally just happened to me a few weeks ago. So
Definitely made sense. Wonderful answer. Sometimes
I
it
see.
takes a whole story for us to explain the whole situation. So thank you. Who else would like to talk about their experience?
I guess I could say something that happened to me in high school. I was taking the SATs before applying to colleges, and um, I was first told that I shouldn't take the SATs because not only wasn't it accessible for me, but I will need to have like somebody to read it because they didn't have braille copies or any other accessible print for the test. Um, and this test is basically um, like a grading of whatever you know in the departments of English, math, and it basically serves as that for you to like apply for college. For those who don't know what the SATs are, and I decided that I was going to take it because I really wanted to go to this school that is specializes on performing arts here in the city. Um, and at the moment, I wasn't really thinking about the struggles that I was gonna face through the whole testing process. Um, and it was kind of hard to make people understand in the school that I was able to take it and that I really wanted to do it. Um, my my TVI and my O&M were really helpful. Also, my transition coordinator, they helped me find the words, the correct words to express what I needed in the moment, and like, and it shows like how important like a support um team or like somebody that is there for you is when it comes to advocating for yourself. Um, and turns out I didn't finish the test, which is okay. Sometimes you're like not gonna be able to finish things, but like the important thing sometimes is just trying. Um, and I tried, and even though I didn't finish, I was able to prove myself and like everybody else that I was able to do it, um, and not like um, just stop because it was too long or it wasn't accessible enough for me. Um, After I was done with the test, I decided to email the committee for the SAT department, and I expressed all the struggles that I had with with not only testing but also grading, because somebody had to help me fix up a way on how to answer my own questions, and I ended up writing my own questions using a CCTV, and my writing right now is not the best, so you could imagine how hard it was for me to answer everything. Um, and they were really fond of um, the fact that I had to write in the paper, on bold line paper, which makes everything 10 times bigger. Um, and of course, it was going to take them a lot more time than a normal test to grade. Um, so I just expressed everything that went through the process and how I didn't get my grade sometime um, earlier than the 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 day that I needed my grade in order to apply for the school that I wanted to go to. Um, so I just had to advocate for myself and email them like 100 times until I got an answer. And even like if they didn't make things easier for me and I didn't get my grades on time and I wasn't able to like um I don't know, appeal to take the test again. Um my advocating and like me trying to like fix whatever was wrong with my process could help somebody down the line, or like now whoever is in high school now may have a better experience than I did. So I feel like it is important to learn to advocate for yourself, and like I said, um just find that support system, and like find that person who could give you the right um tips and like advice on how to make things better for yourself, not only like in school, but it's like um the panelist who was speaking before me said, it's about like life and how you learn to ask for things, and like not be afraid to say, oh, this doesn't work for me. Is there any other way that you can help me to make it easier at the end for both of us? Because if I get to do it, then you're not gonna have that harder of a time fixing whatever I did wrong. So I don't know if that makes sense. I'm sorry.
Definitely makes sense. Thank you. And I like what you said. It's not just you advocating for yourself, but you're helping the next person coming down the line. So that was great. Would Tariq or Manny like to answer that question?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Manny.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, after you, sir.
I was just gonna say real quick. I have been very fortunate. I recognize the fact that many of the times that I've had to advocate really came more when I was. So you guys, I'm 45 now, so my school days are in the past, and that's when I noticed that I had to do, a lot more straight up advocating when I was in school, when I was in college, and at that time, so I really haven't had to, and I define advocating as like actually having to create a moment of, hey, I deserve it kind of thing. It's more that I've noticed times have been more subtle for me. So it doesn't come down to these hard, I don't want to do it, or I don't believe that you, Mr. Blind Guy, knows, you know what I mean? It's never, I haven't had situations like that in a really long time. So many times advocating, sometimes for me, I like to use charm, honestly. Whenever I've had issues with my children and their schooling, and like, how are you going to do this? I use my best person skills and people skills and talk them into it and show them how it's going to happen. Um, and even in school, whenever it's been a time where I've had my physics teachers say, I don't know how you're going to do this. And I'm like, yep, that's up to me to figure out. And let's just make sure that what I plan to submit as my work is going to be something that the teacher will accept just the same way that they'll accept it from my sighted peers. So sometimes for me, advocacy has been a little more on the people's side, but like I said, I have not had to advocate as much now when I'm older. And I like that. Like, a lot of what I have to do really is more along the lines of describing to people what the accommodation is going to look like. And that really helps to advocate, because then they don't feel like they're on the hook for trying to figure out how it's going to happen. But that's I've been pretty lucky. It's, for me, it's always helped for, you have confidence, and you, without being, I was going to say adversarial, but without, while keeping things friendly, working towards that common solution it can be very, very simple. Or sometimes you don't even realize that the advocating happened. I've been in meetings where, you'll have some big wigs in the room, and it's not until afterwards that I really, really realized, oh, they wanted to get together to meet me and to see how how this outcome was going to end up happening. And sometimes I realized that making that vision in their mind of how it's going to get done really sometimes doesn't happen until there's a blind person in their face explaining, hey, by the way, do you know that there is this kind of program? Oh, by the way, did you know that there's raised line drawing kits? Oh, by the way, you know, oh, this is how I plan to do it, you know? And by you just describing nonchalantly how it can happen, that is one way that advocacy can happen too. Okay, I'm done. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Mr. Reed.
I want to work off what you said a lot, Manny, because I completely agree with everything that you said. And you know, when you talk about some of those different like accommodations and different things like that, like I really want to go back to what I said in the first questions and learning more about yourself and who you are as a person. Because you know, I think about and my advocacy answer is going to be very basic, but and I've had a bunch of different ones, but the first thing that came to my mind, like I like to go with the first thing I thought of when I hear the question. And so I think about some of those different moments when I first lost my vision, and I think about the fact that I had no interest in being a part of any of those accommodations, like no interest in getting anything blindness related. Um, you know, Shout out to White Cane Day. You didn't catch me with a white cane. It just wasn't something that I was gonna do because I didn't want to look different, right? I didn't want to be who I was or becoming or what have you. I had no interest in any of that. And so as I grew and learned more about myself and what I felt like I needed to become successful and be more myself and everything like that, and continue to meet more blind people, I was like, okay, well, maybe that's cool for you, but it's not really cool for me. And then, you know, coming across more individuals and being a part of listening to different panels like this one is like, you know, slowly started hearing things like, okay, like, you know, like I need to grow and everything like that. I just, you know, quick side, I met some people in the National Federation of the Blind. Shameless plug, I'm the president of the chapter in Tucson's. But what happens is I started meeting more blind people and everything like that, and realizing, becoming more of who I was as a person and learning that it's all right to be who I am. And so when I first entered college and different things like that, I had no interest in advocating for myself because I didn't want to look different or be different. And, you know, I'm onto something really cool in the fact that everybody advocates in some way or fashion for something, you know? Nobody is perfect in any way. So what happens is we're all working on growing and being better. And so I think about the first few times I spoke to a teacher in college and about some of the things that I needed. And it was pretty overwhelming and I was nervous to do it, but I knew in order for me to get the results that I thought that I could get, I had to do it because, you know, I started thinking of the fact that, you know, I was at a place where I really thought I was less than because of my vision and because I needed a cane but didn't want to use it. But once I started to accept those things, I realized that, you know, this is okay. I can be who I am. We're all different. I'm not less than. I'm going to use my cane, even though I might look different than others. You know, I'm me and they're them, and we all have our different unique traits. And so I'm going to talk to this professor and, you know, talking about my different accommodations. And it took some practice at first. You know, I didn't have the charm, and I probably stuttered quite a bit because I was quite nervous. But then through different sessions like this, got to practice my skills with different mentors and instructors and everything like that, and started emailing instructors beforehand, and then meeting with them in person and everything like that, and eventually started to understand what I needed. And so, you know, that conversation with professors and other people, like, I don't know how you're going to do this. you know, and I think that, you know, you might come in situations where you're the first blind person or a visually impaired person that somebody meets. And, you know, that's okay. And, you know, we can find different mentors and everything like that for you to find out how you're going to do it. Because you don't, like, I had moments where I didn't know how I was going to do it, and they told me that they didn't know how I was going to do it. But one thing I knew for sure was that I was going to do it. You know, we didn't know how it was going to happen, but in my heart and in my brain, I knew that it was going to somehow. And it came with a lot of different, you know, problem solving and some uphill battles. But, you know, those initial conversations, I feel like really helped me grow and not being afraid of advocating when talking to professionals.
Right. Oh, man.
I would like to expand a little bit of what Manny said earlier. I really like what he said because I forgot to mention that on mine too, where he said, before anything, I like to use my people person, or what do you say, my person skills, right?
Yeah.
Where I like that because it's cool because before you're a blind person, you're a person, right? You're
Right.
human. So I totally agree with that aspect. And also with you, Tariq, when you said you're probably the first person, you know, when you meet someone or a professor or an employer or whatever that, you know, they've ever encountered, right? So they're nervous. They don't know how to approach you. They don't know how to talk to you. They think that they're gonna, because there's a lot of people, let's be honest, there's been a lot of people out there that are easily offended by calling them blind. There's a lot of people that don't accept themselves quite yet. And that's fine, right? It's a process. Everything in life is a process. So I really like your guys' comments right there because I forgot to mention that on mine too. So that's pretty cool.
Annie, can I ask Armando a question? This is Debbie Hartz.
Hi. Yes.
Yeah, real quick, in just a second, we're going to start opening it up to the students.
Okay, I just had one question because he was talking about this big group of people trying to figure out what, how he could do this with forensic, whatever it is with the computers. Did you go to at all to approach the NFB technology place in Baltimore? Because I have a brother who's blind, who was a rocket scientist who, he went blind after from diabetic retinopathy, and he called me and said, how am I going to do my job? And I said, I don't know, but you live close to Baltimore. Why don't you go down there and see them? They told him to bring work samples with him. So he did, and they went through all kinds of equipment with him and talked to him about different things. And then they gave him a list of ideas, and he took it back to his, it was Martin Marietta, the engineering company. And they ended up buying him 2 batches of everything based on what the NFB said, because then he could have a home office when he was too sick, because he got kidney transplants and everything, and he could also have his work office. So I just wondered if you'd ever talk to them. That's it.
Yeah. Hi, Ms. Hartz, by the way. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Yeah, actually, so I didn't per se reached out to the NFB, the chapter, the technology chapter, mainly because not because I don't agree with them or anything like that. It's just that I don't know much about the NFB. I used to be really involved with them back in the day, but due to different mentalities in certain situations, I didn't reach out to them for that. But it's a good idea. Thanks for bringing that up, and I think I might do that. But the person I did reach out to, I'm sure you guys all have heard of him. Maybe not. Daniel Green. Not the one from Savvy Services.
From Raytheon?
Yeah, from Raytheon, exactly.
Yeah.
I reached out to him because he works with Linux. Linux is another operating system, free and open source. And so I reached out to him, and he's been helping me with my situation, right? He tells me how to work things out. Also, another role model for me was Brian Duarte. Awesome dude, really talented. He's a PhD student, software engineer. Awesome dude. And I must say that they like sharing, you know, because I learned that in any community, a lot of people tend to be selfish. They don't like sharing information. So, you know, I've really learn to you know, kind of like not learn, but I really enjoy working with them too, because they really share any questions I have. They always have an answer, and it's cool because they're willing to share. They're willing to share their knowledge with me. Someone who is new, fairly new, right? I'm not as new, but I'm fairly new to the field, to the workforce, right? So yeah, but thanks for that suggestion, Miss Hart. I'll definitely do that.
Okay.
All right. So before we open up the panel to the students, I just want to make an announcement on the state of the movie. So apparently there's some protections being placed, which is why the film is not being shown on anyone's computers. I think because we're sharing it on Zoom, that's why. Which is strange because it worked yesterday. But anyway, I would like to propose two different possibilities. Because this is a day of awareness, we could listen to the full movie because it's a day of awareness, and we can still listen to the movie like everybody else in this group. And so that's a possibility. I believe. I need to know, though, if the closed captions were being shown. If somebody could let me know if they saw the closed captions when we were doing the screen sharing.
Annie, the captions did come up.
Okay.
They
So,
came up on Margaret's.
okay.
I didn't see them on yours.
Okay. So we can do it that way. If there are some of you who prefer to watch it with the visual piece of it, we can attach the link in the chat. And you can go to it. Miss Margaret just posted it. However, it didn't work on the ASDB computer. So I'm not sure if it'll work on your Google, whatever devices that you're using that are the ASDB devices. But those are the two suggestions that I have. If anybody feels strongly one way or another, speak now or put it in the chat. So are we okay with listening to the film?
I am. I like it.
Yes.
It doesn't matter, Miss Annie. I just have a comment.
Okay.
I had a question that I typed. What time does this event end? Because I don't think we're having class at all. Or are we after these events?
Yes, so this event is estimated to go until about 10:45. At this point, it started a little later, so it will probably go a little closer to 11.
Yeah, I had to turn off my phone because I don't want to be disrespectful.
That's all right. Okay, so we are going to open it up to the group now. If you have questions for the panel, we'll keep the panel going. And then once we want to take a pause, we can start listening to the movie.
All right.
All right, so if you have a question, you can put it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask one panelist or everybody.
Caitlin, this is for the panel in general. What stereotypes do you guys despise the most about being blind? Like the stereotypes that non-blind people throw around at you guys.
The mystical one. So I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, but like sometimes people say, you know, so do blind people have these powers? You know, can you do what I think? Or, you know, a lot of, you know, sometimes what you see in Hollywood, do you have more senses? Do you have a sixth sense? And I always love to tell people, no, it still adds up to 4. Because I still only have 5 senses because, you know, I'm short 1, but add 1. But yeah, I sometimes it's just hilarious to me how sometimes people will ask if there's this other set of senses, and it's like, no, I just use the ones that I got. and just use them for all that they're worth, you know? So yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah,
But
that one. Sorry
you
to
try not to
interrupt.
get upset, you know, you don't. Now I always try to come up with a good, nice reply. But yeah, that one's tiresome.
Yeah.
For me, it's the helpless one, where I'm sure all of us have been in the street walking down the road, and people just grab you out of nowhere, thinking you can't cross the street. Um,
Oh,
yeah, or in the store or whatever, and you're just, you know where things are at, right? And well, I mean, at least for those who
yeah.
are familiar with certain stores or whatever, and like, you're like, oh yeah, I know where the chips are, or hey, I know where the cookies are, or whatever, and people just grab you and they, oh no, let me help you. And it's kind of like, all right, it's just chips, all right, I know where the chips are, you know, I know how to do this, you know. So I for me, the one I despise the most is the people that just grab you out of nowhere. I mean, it's fine to help, right? I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying I hate. Well, not hate. I just despise that the when they just grab you or grab your hand, or just because that's just it's especially for someone who can't see, right? Just grabbing you out of nowhere scares you, right? So you're like, whoa, 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 who's grabbing me all of a sudden, you know? So I don't know. That's just maybe just me, but I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
For I know I'm not part of the panel, but since I'm the one who brought it up, Caitlin, mine, I think this is mostly in like, especially like I've seen it a lot in like animated stories about how people became blind, but like the assumption that every single blind person on the planet wears dark glasses just bugs me to no end for some reason. Yeah, like well, I don't know if you can see me now, but I don't wear, let me just, oh, cannot start your video because, okay, fine. I'm just gonna say it outright. I do not have any dark glasses, but I do. Any like sighted person could still technically see a part of me and see that I'm legally blind because one of my eyes is smaller than the other because that eye is dead because I was born with retinopathy of prematurity and my retina kind of shrunk, which made one of my eyes kind of shrink with it. So one of the eyes is way smaller than the other.
Yeah,
Can I mention one quick thing about that before Tariq replies?
yeah.
I wanted to mention the glasses particularly because I get questions when I visit students' class, different classrooms of schools around town and stuff, and people say, do you wear glasses because you're blind? I thought about that from a long time ago because I didn't wear them because I'm blind. I wore them because of the look. I think I was always going for a certain look, and glasses always happened to be part of that. So in my mind, like I had to I really wanted to be certain about whether I felt it was a statement of Manuel Arguyin, or is it something because I'm blind? I have two prosthetic eyes. So I've got two plastic eyes when I had them removed at a very early age. And I don't mind showing them, and I don't mind people, now that I'm older, I don't care if people look at my eyes. It used to bug me when sighted people would get up in my face to look at them, but that to the side, sometimes you have to also realize what on the surface looks like a stereotype and fitting in with a stereotype versus actually feeling that it's part of you. Some people might say reading, do you stay inside and read because you're blind? No, I just happen to love books. You know what I'm saying? Things like that.
Yeah.
Realizing when although on the surface, it looks like you fit the stereotype, but then maybe you actually like it. So
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm.
Tariq
I'm.
was going to say something. Sorry,
Yeah,
go
I'm.
ahead.
no, Manny, I was gonna say I'm very similar to you in response to what the young lady said because, I like to think of, I was gonna say, I've been around Manny before. He's a pretty fashionable guy. I like to think of myself as a pretty fashionable guy. And so I have my stores that I
You
like to
got it, bro.
shop at,
You,
you
You
know.
both are.
you're
Yeah.
he's the man.
Both of
I
you
like
dress nicely.
I have some clothes I like
Yes.
from Express. I like my sunglasses and everything from Aldo, as well as my shoes. Um, but that's besides the point. And I wasn't even thinking about that, but that's a stereotype as well too. Like, oh, like I can't look a certain way because
That's
I'm black.
right.
You
That's
know,
right.
like I've gotten comments before, like, oh, there's no, like somebody had to have helped you dress yourself because of the way you look. You know what I mean? and
Oh,
and so that's like a really interesting one for me too, because I really like I definitely it's from the way I was raised and everything like that. I've always taken pride of how I looked and then work on developing my own style. So I just wanted to speak to that in terms of the glasses comment and everything like that. But with that being said, if I had to think of a stereotype that I'm not really into, I would say it's the fact that the limitations that people have tried to put on blind people as well as myself, because just because it's just going on, like you have all these different limits that you can or whatever. I remember a few years after I became blind, somebody asked me, so as a blind person, like, what are your limits? And like really under like think like, oh, do you have all these different limits that you can't do all these different things? And I responded to her by saying, and I knew that she didn't mean anything by it, but I responded to her by saying, I'm 6 feet tall right now. And I think I was like 20 or 21 at the time, but I was like, I'm 6 feet tall right now. And I'm never gonna grow to be 6 feet 8 inches. It's just probably not gonna happen.
the growth
So,
limitation.
That's awesome.
And see,
and
that's perfect because that's getting them to think about things not in terms of blindness, but like we're humans.
right,
And
exactly.
Exactly.
that was your limitation was, hey, I can't make my body grow extra
Right,
feet.
exactly. As much as I'd like to be as tall as like, Shaquille O'Neal or in the NBA and stuff like that, it's probably not gonna happen. So, but yeah.
With a positive attitude. No.
There you go. That's it.
See, there again, though, that is one of those stereotypes. Aren't you always supposed to be positive? You seem like you're a pretty positive guy. Those types of things. It's like, well, there is the fact that we can be, a positive character, but honestly, attitude isn't going to make somebody grow into a taller person, right? Um, so yeah, some of those, all those little stereotypes of what people see on TV sometimes get put on us, and it's like, just don't react and make it positive if you ever have to educate somebody.
Yeah.
And that was really cool about what Tariq's answer was there, because I'm sure she had to think about it.
Right? Would
Yeah,
any
I would like.
right?
Sorry, Annie, I interrupted you.
No, go
I would like to go back to what Tariq said about the appearance part. Because I do get called out a bit on it. There was somebody that said once, you're too pretty to be blind. And I still think about it till this day, because I don't even know how you will decide that because I'm pretty, I can't have a disability. Um, but it's just bringing it back to what Manny and Tariq were saying. It's making those stereotypes kind of work in your favor, because um, instead of like being all mad with the person that said, "Oh, you're too pretty to be blind," I was more like, Thank you. I really appreciate that. But I am actually blind, and the fact that you said that I don't look blind is not gonna change the fact that I am. Um, and it's just about like being yourself, bringing it back to being yourself and like being comfortable in your skin. And I know that sometimes it takes a while for us to like feel comfortable um and be able to like be ourselves. Because I know it kind of took me a while after I lost my vision, but it's just about like having fun with it and just making sure that you don't take everything um that people say to our heart, because if you do, then that's gonna definitely create stereotypes in your mind about everything.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you. Does another student have a question for any of the panelists?
Did you guys ever have the problems of like canes constantly breaking on you? Because I
Oh
know
yes,
I had that.
Yes.
every
And
time.
it stopped when I stopped fighting swords with my friends at school. No, no.
Nice.
But you're right. Sometimes they break, and I found that
I had them break before.
when you travel, um, when you travel in such a way that when I was whipping my cane, I feel like I must have been whipping my cane around more when I was younger, because somehow when I left school, I stopped breaking sections of folding canes. Um, part of it is being aware that it's not getting caught in cracks and gonna snap on you, but a lot of it also was making sure that I was taking my cues properly and working with the cues from the cane so that I didn't put it in a bendy kind of position, you know?
For me,
Yeah, I would like to agree on that. Because it's all about like making sure that you are aware of how to put your cane. Because I struggle a lot with the folding part. Because when I first got it, I used to think that I was, I don't know, some Power Ranger or something like that, and I used to unfold it pretty harshly, and that's how I broke my first cane. Um, and yeah, it's just about I guess being aware, but like yeah, that has happened to me a lot, and especially with the elastic band. I don't know why it just happens.
see, I would have to say for me, the canes that I tend to break a lot is the NFB canes. For those who are not familiar with those are just well, I'm talking about the straight white canes. The NFB, they're called NFB canes. So for me, those always seem to break for some reason. Always, and always at the bad time, always at the wrong time. You know, when you're in a hurry doing something, and then I saw you here, and you're like, "Wow, couldn't this break?" You know, when I was before I left or whatever. You know, so I always like to keep a spare. Those Ambitech canes, I always like to keep a spare in my backpack because I like using primarily. I like using the NFB canes because I feel like they're a lot better in my opinion, right? So yeah, I've broken a lot of canes, a lot of canes. Um, so yeah, and particularly those NFB canes.
Um, yeah, I'm similar to Armando in the fact that we use a similar cane. But and I think I maybe misheard the question. I didn't know you said canes break on you a lot or things just in general break on you a lot. Um, I wasn't sure. Maybe I missed that. But in terms of just random things in general breaking, what I will say is that, I mean, I broke on me before I was blind, and things broke on me after. So it was very, it didn't discriminate. That's for sure. But that's besides the point. Nevertheless, in terms of canes breaking and things like that, I think that I You know, it happens, you know, and I think that the more that you work with your cane and everything like that, like, you know, as an O&M instructor, I always have like I have a folding NFB cane as well as a telescoping cane as backup whenever I go anywhere. But sometimes I like how like sometimes straight canes will bend and a bit more flexible. Um, I I haven't broken too many straight canes unless they have eventually may get a crack into like normal wear and tear. um, but it's actually funny. We were doing a summer program at Savvy, and we were working, and I actually was racing some of the other students a little bit and everything like that, and we were timing each other to see how quickly we can go. Ended up breaking my cane, but needless to say, I won, so I was pretty happy about that. But I was pretty sad about my cane. But needless to say, I think that the more I've gotten comfortable with my cane technique, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry. I think I was broke up there for a second. But I think the more comfortable I've gotten with my cane technique and everything like that, the better I've gotten. So I guess this is my O&M plug to all of you in O&M class and working with Jeremy and all the other instructors. I think the more you practice and really start to refine your technique, you know, the better things will get with your cane. So.
I want to mention one quick thing on the cane breaking thing. If you ever have a chance, anybody, go with other blind people to some sort of an event or gathering or something. It's a really interesting dynamic when you're traveling with a great group of cane users, because then you do have to think of things that other cane users know, like, you know, when traveling together to go to a tournament in Mexico, you know, we were all blind, and having to make sure your cane is out of the way of another blind person is something. It's a challenge, but only in such that you have to be a lot more responsible for where is your cane. Is it guarding you, or is it perhaps going to be a tripping, you know, a tripping hazard for anybody else? So when I learned that, and when I learned that I needed to be careful, you know, anybody who knows this guy named Fernando Tarazon, he's a bigger guy than me, and you know, he and I would always have to constantly make sure that we weren't putting our canes in each other's way. And when you do that, then I noticed I had a lot less breakages as well. It's just kind of really being more conscious about where that cane is, and you get to be a real good user. If it's not only about how well you use it to keep you safe, but also keeping your fellow travelers safe.
I definitely
I
have to.
cane due to breakage in several years now. I bought them because, you know, I buy new ones because I like them, but not due to breakage as much.
I constantly keep growing out of all my canes.
All right, I love this discussion. Who else would like to ask a question? Which student wants to go next?
What happens if you want to order food from a restaurant?
Were you able to hear that?
Yep.
Mohammed said, what happens if you would like to order food from a restaurant?
Tell us in what way,
Yeah.
because it's very easy to order the food. Are you saying how to
In
get their
person?
attention?
If you've never been there, it's a new restaurant to you, and you're not with anybody.
Oh.
Good question.
I'll go last because I've got a certain answer on it, and I'll definitely want to see what the other panelists, how you guys handle that.
I usually like to rely a lot on apps. Specifically, Move It. I think it's a great way to plan um, trips out if you are going to a place that you don't know where it is. Specifically like food places or restaurants, um, because um, I do like to go to a lot different like a different restaurants, and yeah, that's definitely a problem that comes up too much when I go out because um, it's kind of hard to find the place sometimes because you could Google map it and it would tell you that it's there, but then it could be behind a building and you're like, I don't know where I am. So I guess Move It is a really good tool for that. And also, like if you have the chance to plan it out better, you could also ask somebody to tell you specifically where it is, and then as well as like mapping it on Move It, so you are like safer on your answer or like the location that you're going to.
Um, so I want to make sure I understand the question completely. So are we talking about getting to the restaurant, or are we talking about overall just ordering at the restaurant? Um,
Order.
Everything. Okay, awesome. All right, cool. So
I think he
I
said
will.
ordering.
Oh, ordering. Okay, awesome. Okay, great. So, well, the first thing I'll go back a little bit in terms of, um, one, limitations and expectations, right? Um, and Manny mentioned earlier before too, in being in different groups of blind people and everything like that. In terms of being around other blind people and everything, like at the end, if I'll tell you this, so you know, I had only like the first blind person I ever met was myself, right? So I didn't know what the expectations were in terms of being out in public and going out and doing different things. Um, so with that being said, I started kind of learning some things on my own, as well as learning from different mentors, instructors, so on and so forth. And I just really wanted to do things independently instead of relying on other people. Um, so with that being said, in terms of ordering, there's a few different things, I guess, to think about. So, and I know the previous panelists mentioned like getting to the restaurants and everything like that, and that might come with its own, I could probably say a ton of different things on that. Um, but what I will say is, so when you're ordering, you can ask for a braille menu and advocate for that. Getting back to the advocacy question, you can also, a lot of places have menus online, and you could do that too. And so, and you might have an idea of what you're feeling and what you want to eat that day. Usually when I get to the restaurant, I like to have somewhat of a plan because I'm probably gotten there and I'm already pretty hungry at this point. And so I'm like, if food isn't in front of me the next 10 minutes, I can't hold up this situation. So there's that way to look at it in terms of those couple different options as well. And, just, and really just kind of thinking about the restaurant that you're going to and what they might deliver and serve and stuff like that. Thinking about asking different questions. I think it really comes down to being okay with asking the questions you need to answer. Excuse me. Now, with that being said, you might have situations where different people might be rude to you and things like that, and that's clearly unacceptable. Um, but I think it goes back to your own self-worth and knowing that at first, when you walk in the door, I would say at the restaurant, everything like that, understanding that you can do what you're about to do, you know, whether you've done it before or not. I think it's the expectation within yourself, like, I can do this. Now let's talk about how we're going to do it. If that's asking questions, if that's doing research beforehand, you know, working independently and doing different things like that. I hope that answers the question. But if not, feel free to, I guess, ask a follow-up. But I hope that covers it. I don't want to ramble on too long.
Let me make, I'll jump in. Armando, did you have a response?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So what I notice, okay, so when I get to a new place, let's just, and if Mohammed, if you would like to ask any point about how you decide on where you're going to go, we can have that in another question. But I know that the moment that I arrive at the door of any restaurant, and I'm going to think of the times that I haven't gone somewhere with a friend or on a friend's advice, because, you know, a lot of times we hear about, you know, this or that place that somebody says we should try or whatever. So thinking of the times when I was actually alone, when I get to the door, the moment I open the door, I think I have a few different questions to decide how to, you know, I like to break things down into simple steps. So the first thing I decide on a restaurant is it the kind of place where you walk up to a counter and order, or is it the kind of place where you're seated? Those two questions go through my mind as to know what to look for. If I know that I'm going to be seated, or if it's the kind of place that seats people, then I feel fine walking in the door and maybe looking for a podium or a place where the wait staff like greets you and says, "Oh, come right over here." You know, if it's going to be the type of place that I need to walk up to a counter and order, I try to listen. I do a lot of listening. I listen for one, if I can hear the cooking gear, because that's usually the back of your restaurant. If I can hear sounds of cooking and sizzling, that's the back of your restaurant. I listen for where money sounds like it's being, and transactions are being held. That tells me that that's probably where I'm going to be headed towards in order to order or to tell them what I want, at least. So if that's the case, I look for the line that is usually kind of sometimes it's not straight, right? Sometimes it might be shaped like an L, or kind of like a snake, a S back and forth. But it's these stanchions where they hang ropes where lines, you know, usually form, and I'll follow those up. So kind of, I get an idea of what kind of a place I'm at. If I get seated, and if I have somebody, a wait staff, and if I haven't had a chance to look up online, because I like to do that as well, find the name of the restaurant, pull it up in like Blind Square or some other app to look at the menu and try to get an idea. If I can't find it there, or if I just ran in off the street and was hungry, I'll ask the wait staff, you know, "Hey, what do you have? You know, what's your specials?" Or "What do you have, you know, that's a cheeseburger with bacon?" Or, you know what I mean? I like to give them some general choices of what I'm looking for, and then they'll kind of tell me what they've got. So that's how I handle it. And even when I will go up to the counters, I kind of try to get an idea of what's there already. And then I'll ask the person behind the counter for a quick reference, you know, "Hey, what do you recommend? I want a sandwich that's hot with some roast beef and maybe this on it," you know, you know, pickles or what have you. They give me that idea. Then it gets tricky, because once, if it's an unfamiliar restaurant and it's the kind that where you seat yourself, after I leave the counter, if I can't immediately hear which direction to go, and it sounds pretty convoluted, I'll ask the counter person for gentle directions, you know, "Hey, you know, are there any empty seats over in that direction?" You know, and I'll point and they'll tell me how to get there, if I need to go around like a potted plant or something. You know, people just generally give advice. I still highly use my cane, you know, real gently in the restaurant, move slow, especially if I have to carry a tray or any of my own silverware and utensils and that kind of thing. move slow. It doesn't hurt to be cautious around other diners. And it doesn't hurt to be extra, doubly confident of where you're going. So if I pass somebody who's pouring water, or a wait staff who is a server who's pouring water or carrying something out to a table, I may ask for, hey, which, is there anything I can, am I on the right track to head over to the corner booth? That kind of thing. So yeah, I do a lot of observing if I can, to kind of give me an idea of what type of establishment I'm walking into. And in other cities, some places are just strictly walk up. And that's so kind of new. In Tucson, we don't have a lot of that. There are certain places, but, on the East Coast is where I saw my first walk up cheesesteak place, and I was like, wow. So people just stand here and eat their cheesesteaks. So that's cool, So it's always new. But is that what kind of the questions that you were, answers you were hoping to get?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, just wanted to let everybody know we only have about 10-15 minutes before we should probably start the film. So let's get a few more, unless Armando, did you want to say anything about that, or do you want us to move on to the next question?
For me, I mean, I'm a pretty simple guy. I don't have anything crazy. Literally when I go to order like at a restaurant and stuff, I don't know, I'm a pretty simple guy. I like asking, because for me, most likely that person has already eaten there. When I'm talking about that person, I'm talking about the person who's the waitress or the waiter, right? And I always like asking for recommendations. I'm not, so like when I go to eat, for instance, I like food. I must admit, I like food. I like to eat all kinds of food. And I always like trying new things. I never like getting the same thing over and over again. I like being surprised. I like trying new things. So for me, I'm a pretty simple guy. When it comes to like a sit-down restaurant, I like to look what they have, whether it's burgers, steaks, whatever it may be, and whatever just sounds good, really. And I just ask the person. Sometimes I do get the bro menu, but from the great majority of the time, from my experience, they never really have it. Or if they have a bro menu, it's outdated, and the things they have on there, they don't have it anymore, So for me, that's just my experience, right? Other people have different experiences. But yeah, that's how I like doing it. And I'm also like many too, where if it's a counter where I have to go to a counter, yeah, I do it exactly how he says it. I gently use my cane, walk slowly, because there's other people around. They may have trays, things like that. So yeah, I'm a pretty simple guy for that question. That's really my response.
I completely agree with everything that's been said so far. And I just want to say, Armando, if you ask the people who work there and they say, well, I don't really recommend anything there, then that's typically my cue to leave that restaurant if the people working there don't like the food.
Right, exactly. But majority of the time where I go, when I do have, they usually, like for instance, Texas Roadhouse, right? Oh man, that place is fire, by the way. It's so good. I always like asking people there, because I know they've eaten there before, So, but if like when Tariq said it's a great point. If they don't eat there, then it's probably a good idea to not eat there, So, yeah, that's a good one, Tariq. That's a good one.
Good tips for everybody.
This is Andy. I'm wondering.
Andy.
Yep. I
hear you.
What do you guys do when you guys are just by yourself? How do you guys tell when you guys make soup, or when your parents aren't around or something? When do you do like a pot when it's really hot or something without burning yourself?
Well, the coolest thing, when there's nobody around and you don't want to burn yourself, there are a lot of easy, some things that you can do to remind yourself where it's at. you know, making sure that it's centered. You can put on like a glove to help you at least get a sense of where the pot is, because heat radiates out and we don't always know, you know, it feels hot, but the object may actually be a bit further away. So, you know, you can go at your own speed, and if there's nobody around, you don't have to make it look, you know, you want to be safe, and you can just focus on how it is while you're preparing that dish. You know, if you're using like, you know, I made some chili the other day in a big old pot, and I use a wooden spoon so that I don't scrape up my pot. Well, I also know that using cane theory, you can kind of use a long-handled spoon to help you orient yourself to the hot objects on your stove.
Okay.
So I'm not much of a cook. I mean, I do cook, you know, to survive, obviously. But for me to say that I cook often, like a lot, probably not. But it's a good question. I did train with Savvy Services for the Blind. I did train with them, and there was a guy there who taught me. Well, actually, he didn't teach me this technique, but it's just something that I don't know. For me, it's logical, right? So I think your question was about soups, right, in particular, or just anything in general. In when it comes to
Anything in general.
anything in general, okay, yeah. So for me, I like using the. So, like for instance, if the pot's not centered, right, you could easily tell. Well, for me, right, I don't want to speak for everyone, but for me, um, you can easily tell by how the heat radiates, right? So, for instance, if I'm doing a soup or something, I like hovering my hand over the stove, not like close to the burner or anything, but just hover it over it, right? Making sure that if the soup is boiling, then, you know, if I feel like there's a lot of heat on the left side of one burner, then I know that's not centered. If the heat is, if I hover my hand over and I see that the heat is equal, then I know it's center, right? Um, but for me, I like to, that's the way I like to doing it, because I don't know, it works for me, right? I think at the end of the day, you have to find your own techniques. Whether you like following other people's advice, that's cool. But for me, that's how I like doing things. I like using um, my hands that way, where I just hover my hand over something and not close. I'm saying like, you know, making sure that I don't burn myself or anything, because, you know, you gotta be, you gotta have common sense, right? Um, but yeah, that's how I like doing it. I've had a lot of incidents where the pen is not centered or whatever. So, but I could easily tell that it's not centered, because you can tell if you're holding the pen on one side and you're like, oh, this feels weird. You know, you move it around. You could also move it around with the pen on the burner, and you can easily center it. You know, but I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully, it does. It makes sense in my head. Let me know if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the way I do it personally.
Yeah, to speak onto what you said, Armando, you know, there's a lot of different techniques in terms of what people might do. You know, sometimes like when I'm using the oven and stuff like that, like I might know like what o'clock to turn the burner on and off and stuff like that, or like how my oven might work and everything. Like, you know, some people put braille on some things, some people use bump dots, you know what I mean? In terms of like maybe labeling their oven and stove and stuff like that, so they could do different things on their own. Or like in terms of the burners on, like maybe like having your hand like over it, you could feel the heat radiating and stuff like that, kind of what Armando was saying. What I'm gonna put on like my my O&M instructor hat for a second. You know, in terms of, you know, I mean, when I work with students in the kitchen at Savvy, mostly in O&M at Savvy, what I will say is that what I tell my students is that, you know, like our goal, and I mentioned this in my bio as well, like it's just to empower students, and I like students to know they can do all these different things on their own. So I love these questions because I feel like, you know, in your hearts, you guys know that these things can happen on your own. You're just trying to continue go along your journey to understand how to do it, right? And so what I tell my students is that in terms of O&M routes and like having them do different things independently and everything like that, at the end of the day, like, I know that as an instructor, like I know that I am super cool. Like, I know that I'm awesome to be around. Don't get me wrong. Like, I understand that. But unfortunately, you cannot take me everywhere. So since you can't take me everywhere, we got to find ways for you to do this on your own. And so, needless to say, you know, just taking time and going on your journey and learning different techniques, listening to your teachers and instructors at ASDB and continuing to get more training, and then get to a place where not only are you able to do it and done it a couple of times, but you also build up your confidence.
That's amazing because I seen some of you Manny, and some of you guys at Savvy too. I actually go there.
Nice.
Yep. I haven't seen you, but I've seen Manny.
All right. I want everyone to have the opportunity to ask a question, but I am also trying to be aware of people's time. So I said that this would go until about 11. If it goes a little later, are people going to be okay with that? If not, speak now.
That's fine with me.
Make
That's fine with
you-
me.
All good over here.
All right, so I would like to get a couple more questions in because I think that some people probably have some. Students, any questions? Going once. Just kidding. Give you a few more seconds to think about it. All right, well, perhaps this is a good time to start the film.
This is Miss Margaret. I just wanted to say something real quick. I want to say you four are wonderful panelists. I'm so appreciative that you guys took your time out of your day to share with us. You have provided so much insightful information, and I think it's wonderful. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank all of you for putting this together and all the great questions so far. We really appreciate this. You know, there's a lot of times that we sometimes aren't always thinking of these questions until they're posed to us, you know, coming through your guys' perspective. So, you know, thanks for giving us all of the chance to speak and inviting us.
Absolutely. This has been a really awesome panel to be a part of. Like, everybody's been great. You know, I guess have one thing I want to add in terms of some things that I've been saying. You know, as you know, we leave, like, as you know, this ends, you had listened to the film and everything like that. I think it's a great one to continue learning and growing. And, you know, as you guys are in school, like, we're definitely in an interesting time right now, in life and everything like that. But I just encourage you guys to continue pushing on. We've got some awesome questions as a panel today, and what I think about is, in terms of tough times and everything like that, and understanding that I can do things, I think it's important to understand that everybody has potential. But I just encourage you guys to continue putting the work in. When I was in marching band, when I was in high school, my band director always used to say this thing to us, and this, like, I love quotes, so as cliche as this might sound, but I think it's a really neat one. And so he always said, in terms of like what we were creating and our band and everything like that, you know, we're great, we have a lot of potential, but potential is only unachieved greatness. And so continue working and achieve all the things you want to achieve, because you can. So I just wanted to put that out there because that's one of my favorites. So, but it's definitely been amazing being on here, and thank you guys so much for the opportunity.
I got one question.
Go for it.
As being a blind male, how would you like shave?
Did you hear that?
That's a really good question, actually. So, I think if I heard the question correctly, because there was some sounds, some extra sounds there. As a blind male, how do you shave? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So again, I'm gonna say this. Everybody has their own techniques. I'm not sure if there's like a proper way of doing that. But for instance, for me, my brother-in-law taught me how to shave, right? Because obviously I didn't know how, right? So for me, I like to base it off how you like. So for instance, for me, they've told me, okay, you know what, this kind of beard works really good on you, right? So depending on you and your style and how you like looking, on appearance and things like that. So for me, I like basing it off of my ears, right? So there's a certain level of my ear where I like lining it up to my beard, right? So if I like like I like having like a short beard or whatever, in the middle of your ear, right, of the outer ear, I like lining it up with my beard, and from there, I like shaving it. I don't know if that makes sense. I wish I could show you guys what I mean, but yeah, it all depends, like how high, how low you want your beard, your sideburns, and things like that.
Yeah.
But for me, that's how I usually do I do a blade. I don't do a razor, so I actually do blades, and that's how I do it. Hopefully
Yeah.
that makes sense, man.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, dude, just to kind of go off that, like I could talk about techniques and different things like that for a while. I kind of just also like will feel the different parts of my face and stuff like that, so I can make sure I feel that it's even. You know what I mean? And feeling what's even and everything like that. But I think Armando said it great in terms of like, having different, like, I guess, way of you're using your ears or whatever, like making sure things are even and stuff like that, to find ways to do that. This could probably even be like, I mean, everybody I'm sure has different techniques and stuff like that they use, and different things, but I think that's definitely a solid place to start.
I have tried using an electric shaver, and when I was really young, I was a teenager, and I found that I couldn't get as close a shave as I could with a razor blade. So I have probably for 25 years, I'd always shaved. I was always clean shaven, and this year I'm experimenting with a beard, so it's kind of fun, but it's new. It's different from doing the whole thing smooth, And in that way, all I had to do was just make sure that I was feeling for the hair and feeling for these little tiny hairs if they're getting away. And that's what also helps me to know when it's time to change my razor. And just to kind of keep things balanced, like it wasn't until much later that I realized, boys and girls shave differently, and we use different landmarks. And obviously, so for a face, there are a lot of places where you have to be really careful. And so you gotta really be careful, and there are lots of turns. I guess that's what I should say, is there are lots of dips and turns and stuff, around your lip and under the chin and all of these little places and crevices where you have to make sure to get. So it's just a different shaving experience. So same thing. I'm sure that some of our female audience kind of probably already knows that, but shaving is an interesting thing.
After all, it's a good question, though. I kind of that was a good question. Honestly, I never thought about that. How a blind man does it. I just always. That's a good question. I don't know. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think I'll have to invite you all to the activities of daily living skills class once we're back in action. That's something I definitely don't know how to teach.
It's fun.
All right, any last questions? I mean, we could turn this into White Cane Day instead of White Cane Morning, so any more before we get the film started?
No questions.
All right.
I just wanted to say thank you.
Sorry. Was there a student? Talia, did you have something to say?
No.
Okay. Elisha?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for having me. Well, I guess all of us, and thank you for all your great questions. It was really nice to hear your voices again. Yeah, and I hope that I get to speak with you guys again, and I guess enjoy listening to the movie.
I wanted to go ahead and add one more thing too. Yeah, again, thank you guys. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, all of you guys, for having me as well. As a former student, it's cool. I wish I had people, kind of like, kind of had this event when I was there, at least that I don't remember. I don't remember ever participating in one. So, yeah, thank you. And if you guys have any other questions, at a personal level, whether it's school, whether it's work, whatever, feel free to talk to Annie, and then she can reach out to me and you can pass on my information. I don't mind. I've loved sharing knowledge. I think knowledge is power. So, I definitely think that if you guys have any other questions at a personal level or right now, it doesn't matter. Don't feel free to ask. Also, I just want to say real fast, I have to go, but it was great being here. And thank you, all of you guys for having me.
Thank you so much, Armando. Thank you. Yes, thank you to Manny, to Elisha, to Armando, and Tariq. This was amazing. And given the circumstances, I think this was one of our better White Cane days. We've had amazing ones, but this was really informative. So I just have one last comment and then one last question. Actually, I'll ask my question first. So originally we wanted to make a film with all of the students answering this question, but it didn't go off as well as we had planned. So wanted to ask each one of you, if you could go anywhere in the world right now with your white cane, where would it be? This is just
my bed.
Sorry. Actually, you know what? If you're a student, just shout out. Where do you want to go? Anywhere you want to go in the world.
Russia. Cool.
Florida.
Antarctica.
Djibouti. New York.
To Japan so I can see lovely cherry blossoms. Wait, cherry blossoms are in Japan, right? And not China? Am I getting them mixed?
They're everywhere, I thought.
Yeah.
I want to go to Tokyo.
I like going. I love going anywhere. I took my white cane. I went hiking the other day. I was alone with my kids up at Sabino, and that was just nice just to be out there. I love nature, and using your cane to get around on trails or wherever it's a really fun and natural thing to do.
Yeah, I myself, I'm not one of the panel, but still, Caitlin, myself as a blind person, I always loved when I get the chance to go on a nature walk with my class. I always love to like ask about all the different like nature and flowering plants and learning the scientific names of each plant and like discovering what makes them do the certain things that they do to make this world great and unique.
Awesome. I got another Tokyo in the chat. Anywhere else? Just shout them out. This is your last chance. Where do you want to go if you can go anywhere in the world right now?
England.
Let's go to Canada.
I would love to go
Let's go to Canada and London.
Yeah.
Drag racing in Tokyo.
Tariq, where would you go?
The beach, but Sabino sounds pretty good too. So now I'm thinking, you know,
Yeah.
because the rest of the world right now is getting pretty cold, guys. So, but in Arizona, we're now getting to a temperature that's like acceptable. I'm from Pennsylvania, so so we're now starting to get to a weather that I enjoy. So right now is my summer.
Nice.
Go down to Australia. They're starting to, you know, go down there, warm up.
I would want to go